Hello everyone, my name is BlackWitchDirah. I am a Luciferian witch of the left-hand path as well as an occult educator. So I wasn't planning on filming a video today, but I felt really compelled to speak on something. But before I get into that, the usual announcements. The Dark Arts Academy, as usual, is open to new members, and this month we have lots and lots of new content coming for you on there. And we are hosting a solstice rite with Belial this month for our group ritual. We also launched the Professional Witch Coven in October for witches who are looking to use magic and all that's involved in that to succeed in their business endeavours. So that is also open to new members, and we have loads of plans for what's coming up this month in there. I have also opened up my spell services again. They are back on the website. So I have a little bit more availability than usual, so I thought I'd pop all the services back on there for anyone who's looking for spell services, tarot readings, etc. So, topic of today, after school Satan Club. Now, this looks like it's been going on for a little while, but I've only recently become aware of it, probably because I don't follow the Satanic Temple and what they get up to. The Satanic Temple is not really an organisation that I vibe with, but I had this post come up on my feed following a lawsuit. Pennsylvania School District permits after school Satan Club. And when I saw that, I was kind of like, I feel like I should be glad about this, but I'm not. And obviously I went to the comment section and, you know, as expected, all of the comments were like, every day we get further and further from God. And, you know, that's to be expected. Didn't surprise me at all to see that, but I was kind of like, I feel like people would assume that this is something I could get behind, but no. Quite the opposite. And the topic popped into my head today and I ended up sort of gathering some thoughts around it, and I thought I'd make a video. So what are my thoughts on this? So I went onto the Satanic Temple's Instagram page and this post caught my eye. Hey kids, let's have fun at after school Satan Club. And then it says the Satanic Temple is a non-theistic religion that views Satan as a literary figure representing metaphor blah 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 blah, and then it's like science project, community service projects, puzzles and games, nature activities, arts and crafts and snacks. I'm like, you know what, that sounds pretty good. Like that it's quite innocent, right? And I'm sure that they're not, you know, like people would assume, particularly kind of like the conservative Christians, they would probably assume they're going to be teaching them about Satan as, you know, how they view Satan, and, you know, they're going to be doing all these rituals and all this crazy shit, and, you know, putting the devil in our children. And anyone that knows about the Satanic Temple knows that that is not what the Satanic Temple is about. Like, everyone knows that they are an atheistic organisation and that they don't believe in Satan, as it said, as an actual being. It's purely an icon, it's iconography. So we can debunk that straight away, that nothing too sinister is going on. I mean, 99% sure, you can never really know. But what the issue that I have with it, right, is that despite the fact that the Satanic Temple is atheistic, despite the fact it's not really a religion, it's still an ideology and it's still being taught to children. And it says that it encourages children to think for themselves. I would argue that depending on a child's age, their capacity to think for themselves is somewhat limited, because there's a reason why we grow as like into adults carrying a lot of beliefs, morals, principles from our childhood, and it shapes us into who we are now, right? That's because we didn't have the capacity to always think for ourselves. Up until a certain age, we are always looking up to authority figures to tell us what to think and what to believe. We as children don't necessarily have the capacity for critical thinking. So I'm kind of like, why are you putting that on a child. The second issue I have with it is, yes, the activities and what the club consists of looks relatively innocent, but it's the Satanic Temple at the end of the day, right? You're introducing children to this organisation which has literature such as the Satanic Bible and the Satanic Scriptures, which are books that are suitable for adults. You know, on the contents page of the Satanic Bible that I have in my hand right now, chapter 6, Satanic Sex. I understand that these books may not, well, I hope they're not being introduced into a child's space, but a child's knowledge of the Satanic Temple and being involved in, like, they are involved in that organisation. If you're attending that club, you are being involved in that organisation, right? And this is their literature, okay? Chapter 6, Satanic Sex. It's not for children, and this is really going to be easily accessible to them if they are involved. And then, you know, we've got the satanic rituals as well, and then, you know, the Satanic Scriptures. I've always said that I don't like that book. I've always said there's things in that book that I just think, you know, what the fuck. You know, I'm not a Satanist. I have the Satanic Bible because I think it is generally overall a good book for people to read. If they are new to this stuff, it's good for undoing Abrahamic conditioning. But I'm never ever going to condone a child reading this. It's just insane. It's insane, right? And, you know, as I said, it's not like they're introducing this literature to them, but this is so easily accessible. You know, they can probably, you know, children have so much access to the internet now, they can probably go online, look at their website, and there's a free PDF of this shit online. Like, come on, you know, just kind of think about how it makes you look, right? But the thing is, that's another point I want to make. I am starting to assume, or I've assumed this for a while, that the Satanic Temple, they like to come across like they're trolling. It seems like they're just a massive trolling group for Christians. Like, they love to piss off Christians. I'm just like, what are you getting out of that? What is your motive? Like, is that just like what you do for fun? Like, because I know personally for me, I've got better things to be doing. Like, don't get me wrong, I've had my fun with that stuff. You know, if I get an angry Christian in my comment section, there have been times where I've had a little bit of fun with them. But, you know, it just seems like every move they make, it's like, you know, a big fuck you to the church. And I'm kind of like, you know, you've got to let this go. Like, this organisation came about in the 60s and you're still on that shit. You know, like, is there anything more to you than that? Because, you know, I'm not seeing it. Another thing as well, it feels, you know, you might argue with me and be like, well, the Bible is taught in schools and like after school Bible study or whatever. That doesn't mean that it's okay for the Satanic Temple to do it. You know, because if they're going on about how the church is so awful and then doing the exact same shit, it's kind of like, well, you're being just as bad. Like, if you think that the Bible being taught in like a Bible study group after school is wrong, then that should apply for all religious contexts. And in my opinion, I don't think that any kind of ideology should be pushed upon children, because they are so impressionable, and whatever you say to a child, they're going to take it as fact. Like, why do you think that children believe in Father Christmas for like the first 10-12 years of their life, and the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny? Like, you tell them something without evidence and it's just fact. Like, that's how a child's brain works. You know, they're still in that innocent mode where, you know, they have all this kind of fantasy and imagination, right? So anything you tell them, like you're saying, oh, we encourage children to think for themselves. They can't. It's also about like consent in a way as well. Like, if you don't think a child can consent to certain things as a minor, it's the same kind of thing. It's like, I know it's not exactly the same, it's in the same ballpark. And despite Satanism when it comes to the Satanic Temple being atheistic, it is still under the occult umbrella. It is still occultism. Yeah, it's a kind of, it's a branch off of it, and it may not be as sinister, as intense or scary looking as other branches, but it is still occultism, and occultism is not for children. Like, the amount of Satanists that have started out reading this book, read it, identified, and then been like, this is too carnal for me, I need something more spiritual, and then they actually begin to see Satan as the real figure that he is, the real entity that he is, right? And that's fine, because they're adults. That is not for a child to do. That is not something a child can handle. It's kind of my path. It's kind of how I ended up here, you know. This was probably one of the first books I read on the kind of left-hand path section of occultism, and yeah, this was the book I started out with, and that was exactly my thing. Like, oh, it's too carnal for me. It's like that it's not enough for me to just not have a spiritual aspect to it. And look where I am now. But yeah, I'm fine, because I did it as an adult. I wasn't doing this shit as a kid. And I warn adults about getting into this stuff. I warn fully grown adults that can think for themselves and make decisions for themselves and be like, you gotta be careful, it's intense, it's not for the faint of heart, it's not for everyone. You know, I just feel like there's no kind of risk assessment involved in this, and I feel like the Satanic Temple as an institution, I get the vibe that they're the type to deny any responsibility for what other people do as a result of, you know, their actions, right? I feel like the Satanic Temple is much more of a political organisation now, rather than, I mean, it never really was. It says, you know, if you Google the Satanic Temple, it says it's a religious organisation, but there's no real religion involved, right? It's become political now. I feel like it's become ultra left to the point where it's like, this is my ideology, it should be accepted by everyone, so we're introducing it into schools like it's a normal, acceptable thing. And I feel like there's this kind of, I don't want to get too political, but there's this kind of narrative on the far left of, you need to accept me as I am. You know, I need everyone to accept me, I need everyone to validate me, otherwise you are being insert phobic, right? The oppression is a currency. People love to be the victim, people love to be oppressed, right? And, you know, I suppose it could be argued that, you know, denying the Satanic Temple a position in the school environment could be interpreted as religious discrimination, right? No. It's not religious discrimination. It's protecting children from yet another ideology that could be harmful. And again, I'm not saying that Satanism in itself is a harmful ideology. Of course it's not. But I think any ideology can be harmful to children depending on how it's delivered. I think there's too many risks involved. I think kids should be allowed to be kids and not have to worry about religion at all, really. I think they should be educated on religion, but to conform to an ideology or to conform to a religion, no. Because that child cannot make up their mind for themselves about that. So I feel like, yeah, the religious discrimination thing, it's just like, no, actually. The reason why I view this as a little bit different to other religions being discriminated against is because occultism has always been hidden. It's always been sacred. It's always been gatekept. And I think it should, to some extent, remain that way. it wasn't only hidden in secret because we would be persecuted for it, and you know, a few hundred years ago. You know, if we go really far back, it was gate kept for the adepts, and because, you know, it wasn't for everyone. There's this whole thing about accessibility and like equality, and everything has to be accessible for everyone, otherwise it's just injustice. Like, no, this isn't meant for everyone for a reason. This is why it's different from other religions being discriminated against. We're a very small group, right? And on the topic of small groups, there's always you got the small groups of people, right, with the majority of people being sound, knowing what they're talking about, knowing what, you know, knowing their shit, and then you've got the people at the forefront who are the loudest being absolute fucking clowns and just making the entire movement look like a circus, and that's what the public eye sees. And it continues, like, you know, there's a fundamental need to be understood, and we just drift further and further away from it because the clowns have the voice here. So yeah, I feel like the Satanic Temple has taken this position of like ultra left now. It's become really leftist, and yeah, no. You don't need to be accessible, you don't need to be accepted everywhere. If you are firm and sure of your gnosis, you don't need validation from anyone. You know, I don't walk around going, oh yeah, I'm a Luciferian, I need to feel accepted into this space. Like, no, fuck off. I don't. Like, I don't need anyone's understanding or acceptance. You know, maybe apart from the people in my life, that would be nice. But, you know, in general, I don't give a shit. Because I don't go walking around like I'm oppressed or a victim. You know, we have so much religious freedom now, more so than ever. We don't actually need more of it. You know, I'm free to practice without being murdered, you know. What more do I want? What more do I want? I don't need to be accepted into all these spaces. It's just a bit ridiculous. Like, just leave the kids alone. And that goes for everyone, not just the Satanic Temple. And you know what I'm talking about, but I'm not gonna say it out loud. Those are my thoughts. So in summary, I just think this is some clown shit. That's the bottom line. I think this is just absolute clownery, and it's laughable, but also not very laughable. You know, there's so many risks. There's so many risks, and although I said, you know, I feel like the Satanic Temple has become very leftist, there are other satanic organisations that are very far right, which could be easy for people to come across once they are involved with the Satanic Temple. So there's that as well as yet another risk factor. So the Satanic Temple, you're a bunch of clowns, and you're ruining your own movement and your own message by being clowns. So I'll leave that video there. I hope this was somewhat enjoyable and I was somewhat coherent as well, because I feel like this was just vomiting. But anyway, I'm gonna have 2 more videos for my channel before the end of the year. 2 videos I have planned. So you know me, you know what I'm like. They'll be here when they're here, you know. I'm not promising any particular date, but you know, they will arrive. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you in my next video.